Hello, everyone. It is Masks Off with another episode, and I'm Tia.
I'm Kim.
And we are continuing the conversation of when all those balls are coming at us, we're feeling overwhelmed and inside and out, just disorganized and overwhelmed. And so the quote we chose for this episode is by Brian Andreas. I love this quote. There are days I drop words of comfort on myself, like falling leaves, and remember that it is enough to be taken care of by myself. And the reason I love this, I particularly love dropping words of comfort on myself like falling leaves. It invites this gentleness and almost like a warm, fuzzy blanket, like, hey, I see you. And so, continuing, if you did not listen to the previous episode, we highly recommend hit pause, go listen to the other one right before this one, and then come back. And that episode is named, before I forget, just because I think it's important, Surviving a Storm. Right. So go, if you have not listened to that one yet, we really recommend you go listen to that because we're literally tying in what came up in that episode and discussing it further, a little deeper about those falling leaves in this episode. So pause, come back. Don't forget to listen to this one if you.
Yep, completely.
So the falling leaves, we talked about how when all this external stuff is going on, it's often creating disorganization and unease within us. And like you were sharing in your experience, it was hitting those core wounds when you were talking about your dad and your uncle and everything.
Yep.
And then we started to touch on, well, sometimes we don't have the bandwidth to do that internal work and nourishing our inner selves. And the reason I think both of us really like this quote is we can still touch that inner child and nourish and gentle. And like I said, the image that came to me is like wrap her up in this warm, fuzzy blanket and then just say, I'm going to be right back. But you, when we were talking in between recording these two episodes, you were sharing how that's really difficult for you to do, is to just put your inner turmoil aside because of your wanting to dive in and take care of and feel and all of that. So Kim, why don't you share a little bit what you touched on?
Yeah,
because it's important, I feel.
it is important. And when you originally said it, like when you don't have the bandwidth to tackle and to deal with all the balls that are being thrown at you, or to do the inner work, to take it a step further, to go deeper, like what's really going on, when I can't just take it step by step or be in the moment, and I attach the storyline of, oh my goodness, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't handle this. When I get into that space, which is my inner child, my little girl space, for sure, that energy. You had mentioned, well, in those moments, at times, just take the work and put it aside. And I had a reaction to you saying that, and I felt triggered by that.
Yeah.
And there are two things that are at play with that. One, the perfection mask comes right back up.
Right.
Of, no, I need to fix this and I need to do this now and have everything, not so much me be perfect, maybe a little bit of me being perfect, but needing everything around me to just be perfect in a box with the bow nicely tied on it, and everything is just nice.
Yeah.
So because even though if I were, and I will say though, the image of the warm blanket helps a little bit to shift that a little bit more. So maybe that's really important. But to just say, let's put the work aside, let's shelf it for another time until you're stronger to handle it. I can feel the energy of my little girl, the inner child, saying, but no, what do I do with all this discomfort? All these external situations are causing so much discomfort. I can't just shelf it. I have to fix it now. Like you can even hear the voice of the inner child, right? I need it fixed now.
I don't like this feeling anymore.
I don't like this feeling. I don't have the bandwidth to handle it, but I don't like it to let it be here either. So fix it, make it go away. So even my coach that I've been working with has been encouraging me to just be okay with the muck. I shared this before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, no. I need to fix and make it go away. Right. So even still, even if the falling leaves, as the quote says, is another visual for a warm blanket, I still can feel, and I think many people can still feel that resistance to letting it just be.
Right.
And I need to just fix and make this feeling go away.
Mm-hmm.
Even the feeling of overwhelm or anxious, like, or why, and then it goes into, why am I getting so anxious and upset over the contractor in the bathroom? Why is it pushing me to a 12 on the stressed out meter? A 12 on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 12, 13, and feel so fried. Like, why am I reacting? And then, so to just allow all that, even to allow myself to be a 12 is not okay. I have to fix that because I can't be that out of control. It all comes back to what we said in the last episode, which is why it's so key to listen to the last episode. It really, a lot of it comes down to not being able to have control. And I know that that is a huge, huge issue for so much of society.
Right. I mean, you just brought up so many good points to explore, and I'm like, ooh, where do we go?
Which
next?
one?
Right. So the lack of control, that out of controlness, makes you feel
anxious, fearful, powerless.
Does it by chance also make you feel responsible if something goes astray or awry or doesn't go how you want it? Like, then you would be responsible because there was so much out of controlness and you couldn't handle it.
I think that that became my coping mechanism, was when life was out of control as a little kid, family life was out of control, and I couldn't fix and make it calmer and peaceful. Like, my role in the family was peacemaker.
Right.
If I couldn't do it, then I did feel responsible. I did feel like and I'm talking like if I was 7, I was 8, 9 years old, feeling the weight and the responsibility for making everyone in the family happy.
Right. Feel better. Which then you feel better because they feel better.
Yes.
Right.
Always. Yeah. And it happens all the time with my kids.
Yeah.
When they're struggling, I want to make them feel better, so I feel better.
Right. So it's just the same pattern. And you identified that in the last episode.
Totally.
So, none of this is new, but what is potentially unknown and new is not figuring out, fixing, deconstructing, healing another layer in the moment. Is that right? Because the thought is setting all of those worries and anxieties and patterns aside so you can deal with the isness of, and again, if you haven't listened to the last episode, this may seem like, what are they talking about? The isness of your uncle and your dad.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with the juggling, taking care of, nurturing, being responsible, all that stuff that you've always done since you were little. And now you have the awareness of your inner landscape.
Yeah.
And so putting aside, wrapping your inner little girl up in a blanket and saying, I see you, I'm here for you, stroking her back, whatever, comfort rubbing. And now I have to deal with the social worker, the caseworker, the nurse, the this, the that, the. Feels like you're neglecting yourself in the process. What's the worry of acknowledging you're having these triggers and these responses and these feelings, consciously not bypassing, because let's be clear, you're not bypassing, you're not shoving and saying, I don't want to deal with you.
Right.
I see you, I love you, I care for you, I'm here for you. But right now I need to take care of this, and I will come back to you when I am able to fully give all of myself to you. Because right now you're giving parts of yourself in all these different places and parts of yourself to you. So what's the fear of setting her aside, wrapped up in that warm fuzzy blanket?
Yeah. Just what's coming to me like initially is that one, I hear a should.
Yeah.
Right? There's a
Totally.
should, and that's the perfection mask. I should be able to handle this all differently. So, it's almost like the voice to the inner child, like, what's wrong with you? What
So
is
good.
right?
Mhm.
What's wrong with you? Why are you having such big feelings? Why are you feeling this way? It's not okay for you to feel this way.
So you're judging your
Yeah.
reaction or response. And what if, I'm going to
Mm,
flip it, what if your inner response is okay? Because, right, you're judging having
Yeah.
a negative response, I say in quotes,
Right.
to all of this external stuff, which you have to take action steps on.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So this is not something you're like, screw all of this, I'm just
Right.
not going to do anything. No, you are choosing to be in these roles to help and guide and nurture the others
Yes.
through old age, and all of that comes with that. So why do you think you're supposed to just be, yeah, everything's great, I'm okay, I can handle this? Oh, I love seeing that my dad is having struggles. Hooray. I mean, what is the response
Yeah.
you're looking for your inner child to have, I guess?
I think to navigate these waters, these rough waters with more calm and ease, I'm looking for my adult to show up, and my adult is out to lunch somewhere. It's my inner child who is totally reacting to all of the situations. It's just very, very old energy. I can feel the
Okay.
energy is very old. So and then because it is more my inner child showing up, we always talk about fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
She wants to get the F out. She wants to run. She's out of here. I don't want to take care of anybody anymore. I don't want to be
Sure.
responsible anymore. I'm tired of this. I don't want to take care of people. And then there's the critical voice of, well, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So it is, and this is an amazing episode that we're having because I think it's so common and difficult for people to be able to hold space in that way. What you're, saying is, and I know that's what's missing. And it comes in from at times where my adult loving higher self will come in and say some words of comfort, the falling leaves, the comfort, it's okay. And then my adult goes somewhere. So it's and I love this work because it is about balancing our adult self and our
Right.
child self.
Right. Because we're not
You
going to get
know?
rid of her. She is
And you
part
have
of
a
who we
critical
are.
self too. There's the critical parent part. There's like all these different selves, right?
Yeah.
Parts of the self, which always blows my mind that we have so many parts to ourselves. It's like I'm just one in one body, but yet there really are all these parts.
Yeah.
And each one of the masks that we talk about is a part, right?
Exactly. Right.
So it's this it's who's going to show up in the moment. And in some moments it is my loving, wise, higher adult self that comes in and is comforting. And that voice is very quiet, but that's how I know it's my true self. It's my intuition, because then I'll hear it in the background. It's like that little whisper of some kind of message comes in
Yeah.
that gives me the comfort. And then that self goes fleeting somewhere. And then, my inner child, then something else another ball will be thrown
Mhm.
at me. And then here comes the inner child again, like, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. There's so much resistance going on with my inner child.
Mm-hmm.
And then the critical parent comes in.
You
Like I just
should.
shared, what's
Yep.
wrong with you? Stop reacting this way.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked so many times in our podcast about how parents have not allowed their kids to have big feelings,
Right.
right? Most of us were not allowed to have big feelings. We didn't have a container,
Right.
put an energetic container put
Exactly.
around us to hold space for our big feelings. They were not okay.
Okay, so here we go. Your inner child is having her big feelings. They're
Yep.
valid. Why are they not valid? And just as many of us were raised not with parents who didn't know how to have that safe container for those big feelings, and through no fault of their own, because they didn't have it, and vice versa. You have to learn how to hold big feelings. So maybe all that you need at this moment, there's nothing to fix, solve, or change. Your little inner self child is just having big feelings. And so it's not even so much as your adult self has to come in. And I'm just throwing this out there. This may or may not be true. Your adult self doesn't necessarily have to like, I'm here to save the day. Here's my whisper and I'm going to do this and you're going to be calm and everything's going to be great. What about just like, I see you having big feelings. I am going to hold that space for you. And I'm not going to fix, change, or try to do anything. So you're not bypassing, but maybe you don't. It's just the acknowledgement. I see you're having big feelings. This is not you, as you shared, like this is mirroring back all your worries and your fears. I know this feels like it's happening to you. You're safe. Feel what you need to feel without judgment of yourself, that critical aspect.
Right.
And then say, I'm now going to make this phone call or do that. Oh, but what about me? What about me? I am here. I am holding you with gentleness, with kindness, and we can do both. So it's that you can have the big feelings and navigate all these balls as your adult self. So it almost sounds like you're not bypassing, but you don't want your little girl stuff to be activated again. But that's also part of having a human experience, right? Because she is going to rise up. She is going to have big feelings. But are you going to integrate her and love her as she is? Or are you going to try to make those feelings, I shouldn't have them? Who says?
Right. No, it's all great valid points that you're saying. And I think that the part that is resisting what you're saying is my little girl, by saying it's too scary to have the big feelings. It's too scary. I think just on a very simple scale, a small scale, I think how I have been implementing what you just said is, so if I'm feeling an overwhelm with, say, I'll just keep using the example of my uncle, and it's feeling too much, and it's my little girl who's saying, I want out. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take care of him anymore. And then it is I think my adult that comes in and says, it's okay. I don't know if my adult is saying it's okay that you feel that way. It's more of a comforting in the sense of a reassuring that like this won't last. It's more of a this too shall pass. But I hear more of what you're saying, just even more of an allowing. It's an allowing of whatever is arising is okay.
right. Without criticizing or shoulding
Yeah.
yourself that you're more evolved, you should know all this.
But I think that for people, and I have worked with many clients who, because the work that I do is dealing with the inner child, and they're afraid because they feel that they are reliving. And sometimes it
Yes,
feels like I'm reliving, and you don't want to
exactly.
relive that because it's re-traumatizing.
Right.
So
Good
it's
point.
it's a way of revisiting and knowing that either someone else can hold space for you, or if you cannot have your adult self hold space to have those big feelings, because it can be overwhelming and it
Hmm.
can re-traumatize.
Yeah, really good point to bring that up. And what about even reminding, I'm here for you. This is not happening to you. It's just
Yes.
a memory.
Yes. Yep. And I do say that when when clients are in hypnosis, I say to them, this, you are not reliving this, you are revisiting as if you are watching it on a movie screen, so that it puts space and separation between the memory and the person feeling like it's
Mhm.
happening all over again.
Right.
There's
Right.
space.
So it's always harder for ourselves than it is
Yeah. For
to,
someone else.
yeah, always, and it's completely normal,
Yeah.
and you know how to support your clients through this, and it's the
Yes,
same
I
thing. It's
do.
supporting yourself through that. It's just always more complicated because we have all those emotional, and the wounds are ours, you know.
That is
Um,
so true. It's so much harder to hold space for myself than it is for me to hold space for
totally,
someone else.
totally. And I don't know if it's even an option, or with all the balls throwing at you, can you toss a ball to somebody else, take over
Yeah.
something? There's so many little things to
Yeah.
revisit, because you are only one person and you do truly have a lot on your plate,
Right, right. I know. And the reason why we wanted to talk about this in 2 episodes is because I know I'm not alone. You're not
Totally.
alone. So many people out there that could be listening or watching
Right.
may be feeling the same exact thing. We are living in a time when people are busier than ever, overwhelmed more than ever, stressed more than ever with technology and everything, and just the pandemic. And this, if you believe in it, and the whole shift that is taking place, and there's just more energy stuff yuck than ever before. So
Right.
I know that you and I are not alone
Mm-hmm.
in having this experience, which is why we've offered a multitude of ways of looking at it and dealing with it.
And it ultimately, is being gentle with yourself and recognizing, like,
It really
okay, I
is.
see, I see this is showing up. And it's kind of what we were talking about too, is like recognizing it's rising up, and you can nurture her, your inner child, and say, I'm going to come back to you tonight,
Yeah.
and we're going to just hold that space, and you can have your temper tantrum, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I know it just needs to be there, and by then it may not even be as strong.
Right.
But always having that ability to acknowledge, and then still do the doing that you need to do to take those action steps with the
Yes.
external
Yes.
chaos. But sometimes all we need is that acknowledgement without that critical shoulds, perfectionism. And it takes time and practice. And sometimes when we are so overwhelmed and stuck in the storm, we can't, because we're just so stuck in our thoughts and our beliefs in the
Yeah,
situation. And so it's not about perfection.
I know. And actually, it's interesting because I have recently, and I never would have done this before because I had to be so darn perfect, so I really am taking the mask off and allowing my imperfections to be seen and my vulnerabilities to be seen. I
Yeah.
have recently, through these last, months or two or weeks, been telling my family, I'm in a funky place.
Yes.
And that's giving
That's
myself
awesome.
permission. That is giving
Totally.
my little girl permission instead of having to hold it together. Like I've got it all figured out, because no one does. And I
Mm-mm.
wouldn't, and if I came on here and said that, I have it all together, I wouldn't be being authentic. I would be
Right.
lying and saying, so I'm like, okay, right now I'm having a hard time. I'm having a difficult time.
And I do the same. And I think that is an extremely, at least for me, it's really helpful because it's like, okay,
Yep.
I just need some space. I need this. It's not, and it takes the onus off of them to have to take care of us and
Yeah.
continue that pattern as well. And I mean, I remember one time personally, this was a couple of years ago, I was deep in the muck of some stuff, with the inner journey. I don't even remember what it was specifically now with this memory, but what I remember of this moment was I literally needed to it was almost 24 hours. And I just said, I need space. I can't take on anything else. I just need to sit in this funk.
Yeah.
And it was in the summer and I sat on the screen porch and it was almost a wallowing, but not like poor me, poor me. It was just like, I'm just going to be in this space. And
Just be.
after giving myself permission to just and release, and I chose the time knowing there were not a lot of external needs going on, because it's really hard to actually do that. Like when you're right in the thick of it, of
Yeah.
the external chaos. But it was a day, there wasn't a lot of external chaos. So I knew I could do it. And it was so nourishing because I wasn't trying to fix myself. I wasn't like trying to deconstruct everything. I just was there.
Yeah.
It was a very powerful experience. And ever since I took that longer period, knock on wood, but you know what? The universe does what it does. I haven't had to take that long of a period of time. Now it's like, oh, I'm going to take an hour and just zone out and do what I need to do for myself. But it's no longer a doing or fixing of that inner child. It's just a being with. And that's a different energy versus when we're trying to, that fixed energy is a very different energy versus like, hey, I'm just going to sit with my little warm fuzzy blanket.
Yeah.
Totally gentler. I don't know. Yeah.
That's awesome that you did that. That was a huge gift for yourself. Yeah.
It was really powerful. And I
bet it was.
It was several years ago and it still stick. You know how you have those
have
awakening moments, and that was one of them. And I didn't do anything.
You just
like it wasn't doing anything. It was interesting.
Yeah. I think I know I'm not going to say it correctly, but there is some kind of saying or quote. It is like the doing and the non-doing.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. All right. Well, this was great. I'm glad we continued the conversation from the first one. I feel like we have come full circle for sure. Yeah. And we just took that one idea and went a little bit deeper with it.
Exactly.
Yes.
We hope it was helpful for all of our listeners as well. And give yourself permission to just be.
Yes.
All right.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.